one of these excellent books. It was a brand new book. And so I want to share it with you.
I need the stubs.
This is why.
He's the one that got me to do this. He's the one that bought the book.
Thank you, Jane. Without any further ado, I bring to you Sydney, and she'll present it as she pleases.
Woo! I'm just so happy to see all of you here. It's truly a blessing. I am representing my quilt guild, African American Quilters of Los Angeles. It's a multicultural guild, so just please be aware of that. I'm holding a quilt in my hand, and it started out as a gift to one of my former church members. Her granddaughter went to Africa and brought back a panel, gave it to her grandmother, and her grandmother said, well, I don't know, thank you, I appreciate the thought, but there is somebody at church who I believe just really might appreciate it just a bit more than I. So the message here is, sometimes you can start out with a panel. Can you see, how many faces do you see?
I see 3, 4, 3.
How many faces do you see?
4.
All right. Thank you, Dorothy Carter. Okay, just say that name. Okay. But anyway, I decided that I would take this and just frame it. Everything doesn't have to be framed in glass. Okay, you can frame it in fabric. Okay, so I decided to frame this one in fabric. Again, a gift from Dorothy Carter. From time to time, I'll just be showing you pieces of art like this. Okay. When we were invited to make the presentation here at the library, the question was, can you deal with the Underground Railroad? The first thing that came to my mind is, why was there a need for an Underground Railroad? And then two, how many people actually know what the Underground Railroad was? Okay, there are railroads, okay, they go through tunnels, okay, but the Underground Railroad? So I decided I would not just assume that people knew what the Underground Railroad actually is. And just be aware that there is a whole vocabulary that goes with Underground Railroad. And over time, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. First of all, there's a ship that's involved. We're gonna go back, okay? In fact, I showed that because that is from the continent of Africa, okay? And when I'm dealing with kids, okay, the continent is made up of countries, okay, not a single country. It's a number of countries, okay, that go together that make up the continent. The United States would fit inside of the continent of Africa, and there would still be much land left. Part of the vocabulary then of the Underground Railroad, okay, as it gets started then, the picture at the very end, at the very top then, shows the ship. It's called the Brooks, okay? And it's one of those things then where the Wilberforce Committee actually tried to figure out how many people could they actually fit in on that ship, okay? Now I'll tell you some dimensions in a bit. The Underground Railroad was a way for the people that were on ships like that to communicate, okay, without actually talking. It was a secret. It was a secret. Only for those then that actually needed to know the information. Okay? There were conductors. That's one of the vocabulary terms. Conductors then were the people who guided the slaves on to their different routes where they really needed to go. The stations were the different houses and the churches that were actually used, okay, in order to serve as safe places then for the runaways. The passengers were actually the escaped slaves, known as passengers. In 1793 through 1850, federal fugitive slave laws called these slaves property. Property. Imagine yourself, property? You were known as property. And helpers, those that helped this property get away, okay, you could be in danger too. They could be arrested. They could be forced to pay high fines. You could be put in jail. You could actually be hung, okay, for helping someone to escape. It is said that between 1830 and 1860, at least 100,000 slaves might have escaped. At least 100,000 may have escaped, okay? The average passenger was anywhere from 16 to 35 years old, and they actually tended to run away during the night, okay? And they would often feel the trees because there was moss on the north side of the trees. Sometimes lanterns were used at a distance in order to let you know, okay, this is a safe place. I cannot imagine today, okay, because we have lights on all the time. People would really be confused. Okay? So just be aware, we're talking about long ago, okay? On the ships, in terms of the space, okay, how would you like to do this sometimes? There was no room. There was no room. In fact, Wilberforce Committee figured out that men were allowed 6 feet, 1 foot, 4 inches. Okay, we're on the ship now. Women were allowed 5 feet, 5 feet, 1 foot, 4 inches. Boys were allowed 5 feet, 1 foot, 2 inches. Girls were allowed 4 feet, 6 inches, and then 1 foot, 1 foot. Okay, so as you see pictures like that, then understand that there was no extra space. There was no extra space. And you were oftentimes allowed to get up maybe once a day. Can you imagine? Can you imagine? If the weather was bad, you could not get up, okay? Just imagine, you know what coffee smells like. Living in humans, that many humans. There are those who feel that many blacks arrived in as indentured servants. Maybe some did, but most arrived like this. Most arrived like this. The indentured servants would work their time off, okay? In other words, whatever the cost it was to get you here, okay, you agreed then that after you worked that time, then you would be free. There was no free for a slave. Okay? You can see here, sold into slavery. Okay, property sold into slavery. So just be aware. Move right along. Auctions were held. Property. Okay, not people, but property. All right. So feel free as we move on. Okay, that humans were considered property. When I was asked to do the Underground Railroad, I said, now, of all the quilts that I have nothing on the Underground Railroad. Having taught for some time, though, and retired, I decided I needed to just hold on to some information. And in looking through my stash, I came across this map of the Underground Railroad, which really tells you the different paths that slaves took trying to get to freedom, okay? This was following really the Civil War. Okay, you have the southern states then that really has seceded, have left the Union. You have the northern states. Okay, so there was an effort then to get to the north. But after the fugitive slave law, okay, it really was not safe to just stay in the north. You really needed to go to another country. Right? So just be aware of that. Again, being the teacher, I just came across this one inside of one of my books. So, okay. All right. But again, you can see the past then that we take. Harriet Tubman then is the one conductor that we tend to hear quite a bit about, okay? And with Harriet, if you decided you were gonna go with her, there was no turning back. There was no turning back, okay? All right, so Harriet Tubman, here she is again. Frederick Douglass. Frederick Douglass is one too, who ended up running away. Eventually, I think he maybe bought his freedom after a while. Okay, and then ended up being a publisher. Okay. Check what I'm telling you. Check what I'm telling you. All right. Came across a book called Hidden in Plain View. Hidden in Plain View. Now, realize that for slaves, it was illegal. You could not learn, it was against the law for you to learn how to read and write. Okay? That's putting your hand in danger. Okay? Okay, you could not learn how to read and write. So the information then was passed on orally. So in this book, Hidden in Plain View, a secret story of quilts and the Underground Railroad. So since they really couldn't write in terms of giving you directions, then they came up with another way of communicating, okay? And they use quilts. So as you would go from place to place, you would not see a quilt like this. Absolutely not. I mean, that's mass confusion. What you might see though is a quilt with just this block, with just this single block, this monkey wrench block. The monkey wrench told you, and again, I had this sitting out. The monkey wrench would turn the wagon wheels, okay, toward Canada. I'm going to read this. On a bear's claw. A bear's claw. The animal, the bear, because the bear, when it would travel in, it knew where it was going. It was going to some food and some water. So they would follow the bear's claw to the crossroads. Here's the crossroad pattern. So you can see just a quilt. And there were no dryers. The dryer was the clothesline. Okay? To the crossroads. The crossroads happened to be Cleveland, Ohio, okay, and places like Baltimore, Maryland, okay, places that would get you up to Canada. When you got to the crossroads, you would dig a log cabin. And actually this red fabric in the center will let you know that that's safe. That's a safe place. Okay, to the log cabin in the ground. Shoe fly, this is a shoe fly pattern. I feel like I see that. Shoe fly told them, so shoe fly was actually a person. Shoe fly told them to dress up in cotton and satin bow ties. Now, if they had been on the road for a while, runaway slaves, they were pretty raggedy, okay? They were dirty, they were smelly, okay? But you would go then to a safe place and you would be given some new clothes, some different clothes to wear so it wouldn't be obvious that you were a runaway slave. Okay? Bow ties and go to the cathedral church. This is what I don't get. Okay, to the cathedral church, get married and exchange double wedding rings. There's a quilt called, there's a block called the double wedding ring. Okay, I have some quilters in the audience. Okay, flying geese. The flying geese tend to go north. My husband and I walk up at Kenneth Pond Park in LA. And every now and then, or quite often, you will see some Canadian geese. And they are together, and they're always near the area where there's water. So follow the flying geese. Okay? And as you're traveling, do a drunkard's path. Drunkard's path means drunkards aren't going straight. Okay? Drunkards are zigzagging. Okay? So follow the drunkard's path, and then follow the north star. Now, I happen to have two different quilts here, but actually, they both are Underground Railroad quilts. And for quilters, it's interesting how you can take the same block, use different fabrics, different colors, and it's the same thing. Okay, but there are a few extra blocks there. Some of the blocks then that I actually happen to have here. Okay. One of the ladies in the guild, this is the drunkard's path. This is the drunkard's path. Drunkard's path. Okay. Okay. Drunkard's path. Be aware. And another one of the hints in here then was you're told to get a basket. This is a basket quilt. This is a basket quilt. Get a basket and then put in the things in that you think you just might need. Put in the things that you might need. But again, you didn't know how long you were gonna need them. Okay. Again, you had to move quickly and quietly. All right. To my surprise, in my stash, okay, this book hidden in plain view. To my surprise, May, you want to come up? Please. Keep going, Chris.
Keep going.
To my surprise, I actually had this quilt, and it's on. Thank you. And it happens to be on. Well, it reminds me of the quilt stand that's on the front of the book, hidden in plain view. Hidden in plain view. Do you see the similarities? Or is it just me? Anyway, hidden in plain view. Here it goes. Let me run over it. But I also wanted to start out. And hidden in plain view again was where all of these different blocks came from. And this is another book, again, that talks about the Underground Railroad, and it actually shows you each of the patterns. It shows you each of the patterns. All right. I neglected to show this picture here, the door of no return, the door of no return. And it was really the last thing then that slaves saw as they were boarding the ship. The door of no return. Last thing they saw. And as I move on, and I told you about Harriet Tubman, and I had no quilts of the Underground Railroad. I asked the guild, okay, does anybody have an Underground Railroad quilt? Okay, and as of this week, they started phoning to let me know that they were available. But one of the men in my group brought to our last meeting a quilt of Harriet Tubman. Okay, I can imagine her. Okay. Ramses. Okay, and Ramses was I'll say he is he started out doing stained glass. He came to one of our quilt sessions and has been doing quilts ever since. So he does quilts and stained glass, but he really travels the country with his quilts. Okay. I I got this panel. When I saw it, I said, oh, that's about Harriet Tubman too, let me get it. And as I started working on this quilt, it made me start wondering, what were some of the things then that you heard when you were growing up? What were some of the things that you were told? And I asked that to different ones in the guild. So some of the things that some ladies were told was, didn't I tell you? Follow the North Star. Hush. I can't read that because of the light. You must have woke up on the wrong side of the bed. Have you heard that before? When you lie down with dogs, you get up with fleas. And these last two, I dare not allow you to become what society expects of you. That quote, and the silent bigotry of low expectations. I had to put it on the quote because those were things that have been told to me by my son. And he is a counselor at El Camino College. So this really concludes what I'm going to share at this time about the Underground Railroad. And I'm going to kind of bring you into what got me interested into quilting. Okay? So I'm going to move right on and come closer to today, even though for me it was back then. Okay? One of the first things that I recall is Grandma. Grandma was my grandfather's mother. And the only thing I ever remember seeing Grandma do was, I only saw her sitting, I only saw her quilting. Okay? So Aunt Belle once told me, she said, well, I hear you're interested in quilts. You're interested in quilting. I said, oh yeah. She said, well, I have a quilt. I'm gonna give it to you, but don't you dare tell Edgar and Jerome I gave it to you. Okay, so those are her sons. Now, Aunt Belle and Uncle Benny's house burned, so Grandma made a quilt. Okay, if I can have two people to come up and hold this. Okay.
All the volunteers in the world.
Okay, very good. All right, all kind of volunteers. Great, wonderful. Appreciate that. Okay. That's really, I guess you would call that really an antique quilt. Can you turn it around this way also?
Yes. Maybe we turn it.
That's an antique quilt.
What does this one symbolize?
Okay, I don't know. Okay, but again, that's a quilt that Grandma made and gave to Aunt Belle. And be aware, it was left open. Mm-hmm. It was left open so that you could actually put something heavy, some heavier material inside. Definitely, exactly. Okay, to make. And sometimes, boy, when you would wake up after sleeping under grandmas and quilts and all, you'd be tired from the weight of it.
Are you trying to fold it up?
Yeah, please fold it. It doesn't matter whether it's front or back. Oh! Thank you. Now, one of the things I realized, just leave it over on that side. Thank you so much. One of the things I realized then was that Grandma used what they had available at the time. And what they did was they used flour sacks, okay? They would get flour, okay? What we use today, they come to a little package, okay? Flour would actually come in sacks, right? And once the flour was used up, okay, they would open up the sacks, and that's where, if it was the large one, that's where you would end up with really roughly a quarter yard, a quarter yard of fabric. Okay, and some of these fabrics are in grandma's quilt. Okay, so just be aware. Just be aware. I have one other quilt then that is from a relative. Okay. Cleve, come on. All right. There you go. Get on your job. Okay. And I know this is one then that this is my grandfather's. This is called courthouse steps. Courthouse steps. And there's a picture, and that's the one I won't finish. Okay. That's the one I won't finish because it's the one I think she did mostly by hand. But anyway, she wanted to make sure that I got it. And in the center, there's a picture. There's a picture then of Aunt Bob. Of Aunt Bob. And my grandmother in the center. And I'm just leaning over, just looking at them. So you really want to kind of document your quilts. Where do they come from? Who actually gave them to you? Okay, hold on. So again, my interest in quilts came from really kind of wanting to do what my aunts did, what my grandmother did. Okay, the interest was really kind of there. If there are some quilters in the room, okay, let me know if I'm making any mistakes, okay? All right. We often walk. My husband and I often walk. Don't go far. Okay. And there is this area. Well, I'll just show it to you. These two quilts is, well, it's a diptych. It's night and day. You can hold one. No, other side. Okay. Okay, one is night, one is day.
Turn it. There you go.
Okay.
There you go.
Here we go.
So it's really the same area. One is night and one is day. And as we're doing landscapes, as we're doing what the grounds and all look like, okay, hold down. We are RVers, okay? We tend to like to go out, and this is called looking out of my RV window. Okay. And that's essentially what I saw, to the point that when we would start traveling, I would just take a pad and just start sketching some of the scenes that we could actually see. It's called Mountain Lakes, and it's up above Rancho Cucamonga. Okay, above Rancho Cucamonga. We're members of Thousand Trails. But again, that's what it looked like to me. And hold on. Is that painted?
Yes, ma'am. You can tell she's a teacher, right?
Neither one. Okay, these are just fabrics that these were the mountains, the green mountains that I saw. Okay. Mountain lakes, there were two lakes. There is a Catfish Lake and, what is it? Anyway, another one. It's two different kind of fish that you can catch. All right. And this part here was the path around it. So you could actually walk around and see, but it's beautiful, okay? Mountain lakes. All right. Now I'm just gonna show some quilts. I'm just gonna show some quilts and really tell you about some things. Again, AAQLA, African American Quilters of Los Angeles. Well, before COVID, we would have a quilt show every 2 years. Every 2 years, every other year, okay? And they would do a mystery quilt. And in a mystery quilt, they would just give you the directions and told you to get a light, a medium, and a dark fabric, okay? And they would tell you how much to actually get. how much to use. Okay, Cleve. Let's go side. See the two.
Yes, ma'am.
So I did not know
Ooh.
what the light was, what the dark was, but these were the colors that I would see as we would go walking every day. Because when we retired, our goal was to walk a marathon a week. Now that's doable because we're talking about 5 miles, a little over 5 miles a day. And as we would go, these were the colors that we would see. So I couldn't make up my mind, well, do I want to go with the lavender? Do I want to go with the... I just used the colors that I saw in nature at the time. Okay, but that was a mystery quilt. And had I seen it beforehand, I would not have tried it. I would not have tried it. Okay, so you see?
Can you see it?
Cleave it up.
Oh,
I would not have tried it. Okay.
pardon me. Passing through.
All right. Did you do the quilting?
On this one, let me see that.
Yes.
No, I didn't.
Did you?
I didn't. Somebody in my gear. Somebody in my gear. But again, a mystery quilt. Again, I had no idea as to what was coming. Okay, but I just knew that those are the colors I wanted to use. Again, with us walking, you guys have to be faster. Come on now. Come on, we have another quilt. Come on.
Yes, ma'am.
As I quilted, I realized that there are some colors I tend to be drawn to. Oh. But there were some colors that I tend to be drawn to, and those are blues and greens. And we would often see these blues and greens in nature. Again, we are still walkers, and our goal now is, gotta do this way. I would see the blues of the sky, and then the different greens in nature. Here it is.
Other way.
The blues of the sky and all the different greens. Okay, so those are our one day. I said, look at our shadow. So that's us.
Yes, ma'am. We're coming.
I'll show this.
Oh, I'm sorry. They gonna start throwing things at us. Calm down, calm down. Isn't that beautiful? Yeah, you talking about my figure? But it's a silhouette kind of.
Okay, moving right along.
Yes, ma'am.
I am one of the first black teachers in Inglewood. And the NAACP, again, this is Black History Month, so let me give you some history. NAACP sued Inglewood because they would not hire minority teachers. Inglewood said they couldn't find any that were qualified. John F. Kennedy started a program called the National Teacher Corps. And they put out word to the different colleges across the nation that they were looking for people who had finished or who were about to finish with their 4-year degrees but had no teaching experience. And they were offering a master's degree in education, a life, elementary, and secondary credential as well. Okay. At the same time though, with USC's program, you had to be willing to go and take a QUILT class. QUILT was high intensity language training. You had to be willing to go to Mexico and stay and study for at least 6 weeks, okay? I completed the program, Okay, in fact, that's where I met my husband. Okay, and I went and applied over in Inglewood. Okay, and my girlfriend went with me also. And I was going in to turn in my paperwork. And as I was turning my paperwork in, the person who was in charge, personnel, asked my friend, she said, well, what are you doing? And she said, I'm looking for a job. She said, oh, what are your requirements? She said, what are your qualifications? She said, I have the same thing she has. She reached in the drawer and gave her one as well. Okay, so my friend Miss Sandy Young, okay, both of us, okay, were hired as one of the first black teachers there in England. And as it turns out, Miss Young, who died just within the last 2 years, went on to become a principal. Okay, but we both retired after spending well over 30 years. And that is to go on to say that during our first year, we got this notice saying your services may no longer be needed. Okay, so they gave us this warning that has to go out by March. Any teachers in the room? Okay, are they still doing that to people who don't have tenure?
I think they do in Oxford.
Oh, okay. All right. Anyway, we received that little notice. And we said, well, if we may not have a job, why don't we just go on and do something we've always wanted to do? So we decided, well, why don't we go to Africa? Okay. So our first year, we decided then that we would go to Africa. This is called my 25th birthday. And on my 25th birthday, okay, now that was the panel. We decided we would go to an African safari. And everything that you see on that quilt, we saw on the safari, but just at different times. Just at different times. So the message is, man may tell you one thing, but the Lord may have something else in mind. Okay? All right. Okay. Now you got to see that yourself.
Oh,
Okay, well, every animal that's there we actually saw. And again, if there are quilters in the room, just do know that was the panel that I cut up and made it look as if I was looking outside of the window. Did I finish this side? Okay. Moving right along. I'm going to bring you now into 1955. 1955. In 1955. And I bring you to Alabama too. Okay. That was Alabama too. Okay. In 1955, this letter went out to the city of Montgomery. And it says, another Negro woman has been arrested and thrown into jail because she refused to get up out of her seat on the bus for a white person to sit down. It is the second time since the Claudette Colbert case that a Negro woman has been arrested for the same thing. This has to be stopped. Negroes have rights too, but if Negroes did not ride the buses, they could not operate. 3/4 of the riders are Negroes, yet we are arrested. I have to stand over empty seats. If we do not do something to stop these arrests, they will continue. The next time it may be you or your daughter or mother. This woman's case will come up on Monday. We are therefore asking every Negro to stay off the buses Monday in protest of the arrest and trial. Don't ride the buses to work, to town, to school, or anywhere on Monday. You can afford to stay out of school for one day if you have no other way to get there except by bus. You can also afford to stay out of town for one day. If you work, take a cab or walk. But please, children and grown-ups, don't ride the bus at all on Monday. Please stay off of all buses Monday. Say it. Who do you think I'm talking about?
Was it bus?
Let's see if you're right. Let's see if you're right. If you're close, squinch.
Oh my goodness, look at that. That is just.
Squinch your eyes. All right. And this is the beginning then. Okay. So that's one. Get ready to fold it up. This is another one. You don't have to squinch this time. Go ahead, squinch this. Okay, this is close. And I always like to show this first because this is the way Dr. King got involved in the civil rights movement. Okay, he was the new kid, the new minister in town, okay, in Montgomery at the time. Okay, so just be aware. Feel right along. And again, last month, his birthday, time to squinch again. Time to squinch again. Squinch. Closing down. And do know then that I ended up teaching over in Inglewood some 38 years. Then I retired. One of the things that taught history, social studies, ethnic studies. And one of the things then that I realized that kids like to do what they see the teacher likes to do. Okay? So I went to the library and got a timeline of Dr. King's life. And for one of our classes, the kids did the life story of Dr. King.
Wow.
My story, Dr. King. So that's the kids' work.
It's amazing. Oh, forget about you folks.
So if there's a teacher in the room, if you wonder, well, how did she get them to do that? What you do is you start out with maybe a timeline of whoever the person is or whatever the situation is that you want to do. And give them some blank paper, okay? And have them to determine what it is that they might want to do, okay? So here's an example of some drawings that some kids did on the Little Rock 9, okay? This is as far as I got, okay? This is perhaps as far as I will go. But again, the kids know what they want, okay? And it makes the lesson really come alive to them. And really will listen, they will pay attention. Because in many instances, kids are just drooling sometimes. Moving right along, come on, get close to me. I did say that I am from Birmingham. All right. This September 13th, okay, was the first time I had realized that it was a Friday, September 13th. Back in Birmingham in 1963, something happened that was traumatic for me. Okay. Not so much Friday the 13th, but Friday the 13th I was talking with a friend of mine, a classmate of mine. We both attended Ullman High School. Okay. Her name was Cynthia Wesley. That Sunday, my aunt came over next door. And back in Alabama, we have like 4 houses of relatives, you know, side by side. Aunt Lily came over, and she was it was like she was really nervous, and she just couldn't understand why she was having that feeling, okay? She was a member of 16th Street Baptist Church. Later on that day, we heard that sound that if you were from Birmingham during that time, you know that that was the sound of a bomb going off, either in a house, at a church, okay? And as it turns out, as we were listening to the news, we found out that the person that I had been talking to that Friday the 13th, her name was Cynthia Wesley, and she was one of the 4 girls that was actually killed.
Farewell.
Oh, thank you. So I went to the movie Selma, and Selma showed these 4 girls walking down the steps of a church. And it really, I guess I'd say it just re-traumatized me. And I was saying, they were not from Selma, they were from Birmingham. And I know that, because I was talking with one of the girls that Friday before the morning. My quilt guild, again, would do quilt shows every other year, okay, leading up to COVID. Okay, we haven't gotten back on schedule since, okay. And I decided, well, why don't I just go on and finish that quilt of Cynthia that I had started some time ago, okay? So when I finished the quilt of Cynthia, I said, well, if I can do this quilt of Cynthia, why don't I just go on and do the quilt of all 4 girls? In the summer of 23, like that was a real long time ago, my husband and I went back to Birmingham, and we decided we would take this quilt back and just take a picture of it take it back to the scene of the crime. So we took this quilt back, and while we were out front taking a picture of the quilt, a red car passed by, and it was like a screech, and the person screamed out. He said, "Where did you get that rug from?" I said, "That isn't a rug." It was like I was back home and I was just talking to a relative. I said, "That isn't a rug." He said, "That's the 4 girls." I said, "I know it." He said, "I am married to the 5th girl." I had no idea that there were 5 girls present, and 1 actually survived. And he said she received no assistance, but she has since written a book. And the name of the book is The 5th Little Girl. The 5th Little Girl, sole survivor of the 16th Street Baptist Church bombing, the Sarah Collins. Okay, actually, I'm coming in now because the film went off. My son was actually filming the whole session, and this is essentially where it ended. I was talking about the 5th little girl and how we actually came in contact with her. Turn to ssbclove.com, go to video, and then look for 7/30/23. That's when I really go into complete details of actually how I found out that there really was a 5th little girl present, the one that actually survived the bombing, okay? So just do know that I was telling you about the book, The 5th Little Girl, Sole Survivor, of the 16th Street Baptist Church, the Sarah Collins Rudolph story. And I actually held out the quilt showing you who the 4 girls were, and it was in front of 16th Street Baptist Church, okay? And I also went on to share with you the fact then that 3 of the 4 girls were actually funeralized within a week after the bombing. To my surprise, in reading the book, I found out what happened to my friend, Cynthia Wesley, who was one of the 4 girls. So just be aware of that. And the final close was, I wanted to make you aware of the fact then that our voting, our right to vote was very, do I need to stop? Okay. Our voting, okay, came about in a very difficult way. It was not something that was easy to come by. And you really need to take time to pay attention to what's happening today. Here's one of the many small quilts that I made. It says, we were beaten, tear gassed, trampled by horses, and left bloody on that bridge in Selma. That's Alabama, that is. But we cannot rest. We cannot become weary. We must honor those who gave their lives for the right to vote. That's a comment by Congressman John Lewis, civil rights leader. Okay? And finally, and just closing out the whole thing of Black History Month, please realize then the rights and privileges we now enjoy came about really because of the sacrifice of others. So use it, show it, vote. Thank you. For those of you who are interested in hearing about Black history, I hope you'll just take time to watch what's about to come forth. I've been asked to represent the African American Quilters of Los Angeles Guild in speaking to the main library at Oxnard, California. So again, they wanted me to talk about quilting and the Underground Railroad. So please pay attention to this. I didn't just stop with the Underground Railroad. I tried to bring it closer into today.